And I mean, sometimes, if you're honest, it's really difficult to look past what's behind such a long-term career. And I thought maybe we could start this conversation in a place where you might not have expected to. And that's just in regards to the style of training and the influence behind that training that led to such a long and successful career, one that so many athletes break down around you.
Yeah, it's an interesting question. Like very early in my career, I was doing a lot of training in Boulder, Colorado, where you've got world-class runners, cyclists, triathletes. I did a bunch of running with Rob DiCostella back in the day when he was training, and got my ass kicked every time by him for sure. But anyway, one of the things I saw is that a lot of the people who had really been at the top of their sport, they either went too long or they just pushed it too hard somewhere, and they paid a price and they were forced out of the sport. Like their performance dropped, they got injured, they slid and then they fell off the cliff kind of thing. And I thought, I don't know how long I'll race. This was maybe just a few years into my career. I don't know how long I'll race, but when I walk away, I want to walk away uninjured, not burned out, and healthy. And so that was really my sort of that little accountability voice in the background every single day, every single week, every month, every year, that I kept checking in with. And I kept asking myself, what kind of training will give me results, but at the same time, allow me to walk away healthy? Like I'm 66 years old now, and can still pretty much do whatever I want. It's slower and it's definitely not performance oriented, but a lot of the guys that I competed against have had some major issues, like both Dave Scott and Scott Tinley had open heart surgery a couple of weeks ago. Was it because of what they did in the sport? I don't know, but that might have contributed to it. So anyway, when I came into the sport of triathlon, I came in as an age group swimmer growing up. I swam from the time I was 10 all the way through university. And back in the 70s and 80s, when I was swimming, every workout, the coach would dream up the hardest workout they could think of, and you went as hard as you could, and then you came back and did the same thing the next day. And you can kind of get away with something that stupid, as a swimmer, because there's not the same muscle breakdown that you get when you, if you're cycling really hard for hours on end, or especially running. But when I got into the sport of triathlon, obviously I'm adding cycling and running, but I came in with that swimmer mentality, like go as hard as you can at some point in the workout. Like I was looking at what the fast guys were running in their Olympic distance races. And, they were approaching 30 minutes for the 10K at the end. And so I thought, well, at some point in my workout, I have to do like a 3-minute K just to train myself to be able to go that fast. Stupid, right? But, and in the beginning, I saw that I got really fit pretty quick, but my fitness and the way I felt was really up and down. Like I'd have a good race and then I'd get sick right afterwards. And then I'd have a little injury where I couldn't really go as hard as I'd like to. And just, I was stumbling, and then about a year and a half into, maybe 2 years into my racing, somebody introduced me to Phil Maffetone, and they said, just listen to what he's got to say. Okay. His stuff works. I've tried it. He trains by heart rate. You regulate your workouts. You split them up into aerobic, anaerobic. You don't do speed work all the time like you've been doing. He'll get you to slow down. And over time, though, you're going to actually be a lot better and a lot stronger, a lot more resilient. And so I'm like, okay. So we met and we went to the track, and he said, I'm going to have you run a mile, and I want you to get your heart rate up to 155 beats a minute. He said, that's based on your age and checking you out, that's going to be about your maximum aerobic heart rate, meaning if you train at that or lower, you're training that to develop that endurance fat burning engine. If you train higher than that, you're going to be going into more carbohydrate burning. And he said that the real key to that is that aerobic is low stress physiologically, anaerobic, high stress physiologically. And the way you've been training all this period, all this time now since you got in the sport is anaerobic every day. So every day your body's under stress, and a human body isn't built to sustain that. So I'm like, all right. So right away, I put on the heart rate monitor, which way back then, it was not this cool, sleek little, thing on your wrist. It was this massive box that he had to take an ACE bandage and wrap it around my chest so it would stay on there. And the readout was on the top of the box, And so I'm running along. I had like 2 T-shirts on because this thing looked very strange, and I kept having to look down to see what the heart rate was, So anyway, I felt like I was barely moving, and right away my heart rate was 155 beats a minute. And he said, "Great, now we're going to time a mile." My mile time was about, I only know it in minutes. It was about it was over 3 minutes slower than I had been trying to hit in every workout. And I'm thinking, at this pace, it was about an 8.5 minute mile. At this pace, I can't beat guys that are twice my age. This is ridiculous. He said, just try it for a month. Just train aerobically every day. I know that your training partners are going to be pulling away from you. Don't worry about it. As you do this, your body will develop those fat burning enzymes that break down fat for fuel, and you'll get faster at these same heart rates. So I went with it, and at first I was like, "Ooh, this is ridiculous." But the thing that was sort of like, the light bulb was starting to go on was that when I got home from my workouts, I actually felt good instead of wasted and trashed and like, I got to lay down for an hour. And I also saw that my consistency was starting to go up. Like day after day, I could put in some decent hours of training, and day after day, I was recovering, and my sleep was better, and just, I felt like my moods were more steady, just like everything was evening out. And then eventually, he had me add in some speed work. And then I went to my first race off of this kind of aerobic, anaerobic, splitting things up a little bit more. And I crushed. I like killed it. And I'm like, oh my God, there is something to this. And eventually, when I was, after a number of years of doing this, my aerobic pace was fast enough that, let's say at the Ironman in Hawaii, I could stay completely aerobic on the bike and stay up with the lead pack.